pump. If we're going to recover the Freon, we're going to pump it into the condenser coil. So to save us the time. Then we have to recover it at home when I have time to salvage the unit.
And how do we do that, Brian?
Well, we're going to do that is right now this is the completely working system. We need to put the unit into air conditioning mode. We're going to just manually do that here.
By putting the Y?
Well, let's see. We have a contactor that I can push down I can push it in manually. So what we have to do is train units will reverse into air conditioning mode when you energize the orange wire.
Oh, this is a heat pump. It's not a street. That's
yeah,
right.
So I got all these wires here. So what we're going to do, got our red right here. Crafty job right here.
You can curse, Brian. I'll edit it later.
Okay. All right.
So you put in red with
Yeah,
red.
I gotta put red. Well, just because that fell off of there, so there's not wired on there. And then we'll get a jumper wire. Here. What we're trying to do is we're going to energize the reversing valve. So this will run in air conditioning mode when I push the contactor down.
So it won't be calling for heat. It'll be calling for AC.
Calling for AC, even though the thermostat's currently set to heat.
Orange and red, it will be calling for AC.
You hear a little click. That's the reversing valve down here. Down there, energized. So now what we're going to do, we're going to need to get a set of R22 gauges out of the truck.
Okay, let me go do that.
All right. This oil right here. This unit was leaking Freon from these fittings somewhere over the years. See that oil right there? Mm-hmm. Somebody used the wrong kind of elbow. That's a half-inch water pipe elbow. Whoever installed this or replaced this unit used.
So they did a fucked up job.
They did a fucked up job.
You understand what a fucked up job is?
You're gonna have to edit that out. So now, we only need. Well, I've shut off the liquid line valve. I shut that off because in air conditioning mode, liquid's going to be going into the house and coming back through the suction line. But the suction line valve is open, and we're going to monitor the pressure. And when we've got just about everything sucked out of the end, I'm going to just get it loose in here. It's all ready to go.
So you loosen up. By loosening up, you turn clockwise.
Yep. And right now we have 105 pounds of R22, which is about the vapor pressure of it. And I'm going to hit the vent thing. And we're going to monitor that, and it's going to start going down because right now we're trapping all the liquid inside this coil. It can't go into the house.
So when
that's going to get down to 0 or close to 0. When it stops moving, then I'm going to close the valve off. You never want to let go of the contactor because the pressures can't equalize because I shut the valve off. The compressor will never restart unless you open up the liquid line again and let it equalize. So you got to make sure your finger don't slip off the contactor. You're down to 10. And it'll start making some weird sounds and squeaking and complaining here. Actually, it's going below 0, which is good. We'll just let it keep going here for a minute. We don't care if we burn the compressor out because it's going to get salvaged. We're below 10. That's as far as it's going.
So you're closing the valve now?
I'm closing off the suction line. I've sucked it into a vacuum from the line set into the coil. This disconnect box is new. It's kind of old here.
Eric knows how to do that.
Yeah. So we're shutting the power off. We're gonna have to cut the power off the main box also.
So hold on, Eric. Let's walk through. So you know what he did? So what he did is this valve is closed. Right?
Close the liquid first.
And then what he put the line here, the blue one.
Sucked all the Freon to the outside unit.
Sucked everything into there. He held this until it went below 0. So all the Freon is inside the compressor now. Okay? So now we can start cutting that, disconnecting everything, but we're going to disconnect inside because it's a heat pump. We'll disconnect it there so it will be safe to touch this.
Yeah, we're going to shut it off. And one way to tell where someone's breaker box is see their electric meter breaker box is on the other side of the wall somewhere. So you don't have to ask me where the breaker box is or to look for it.
Why are you cutting it like that?
Yeah, that way when I cut this, it's crimping that off, so I don't have to tape that one up.
Oh, okay.
You never want to when you're sitting here leveling the pad, you don't want dirt to go up into the line. So I'm gonna go to the breaker box. And cut the power
we
off.
don't need to learn that.
And we're gonna put one foot under that, just balance it. Use all 4, right? Use all 4, yeah. Okay. Come over here. Put it on back. Lean it on back one here. I'm gonna put one over here. Okay. And I'm gonna put one over on that corner. Okay. Good. still in the middle here. Where's our other, where's number 4 at here?
Oh, thought I lost you.
Alright. Now we'll look for something to prop it up. This guy here. So we're still in the middle. These things stick good once they stick. There's a particular place these things.
It's right by the hole, right?
Yeah, right on the very corner. There's something to work on.
There's the hole right there.
Right about here.
Oh.
Where, and you want to make sure that you got that edge even to the front of this pad. So that way when you stick them on, and what you're doing, you're taking them off, take off these over here. They're ready to go.
Okay.
Straighten that angle there.
We got the point.
So here's the heater kit.
That's for emergency heat only.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
that's your
what
electric
their
coil.
bill
This
goes
is
up like
basically-
shit.
This is a 10,000 watt electric heater. It's 2 times 5,000. And on Goodman units, air handler, direction of airflow, up. Yeah, of course, air always goes up on these things. All right. And I've removed, this comes factory shipped onto the wiring harness. I removed that. We don't need that. So the thing going up, I already took there was a metal plate in here that I took out and threw away because you don't need that. But you get the electric heaters. So we gotta work them in. Same screws you took out. Go back into it. And when you size these units, you have to look and see what size the electrical service is coming from the breaker box to the air handler, because you can't get an electric heater bigger than the power service that you have in the house to the furnace, to the air handler unit. In most cases, systems like these, 2-ton, 2.5 ton, 1.5 ton, are all going to be 10 kW heaters. Sometimes you'll see a 5,000 watt heater in a condominium or very small townhouse. 60 amp service is a 10 kW heater. And that's something when people are selling these units and what you're ordering, you end up with a 15,000 watt heater and you only got a 60 amp line, you're out of luck. It ain't gonna work.
Breaker next to it, so we'll put line 1 here and line 2 right there, and the ground goes over there. I know I don't have much light, I'm sorry, but so that's it. I mean, pretty much that's it. And he connect the connectors, and then you got the blower here, the little this is a small little blower.
I take this.
How many BTUs is it? 60?
This is a 2-ton air handler.
Okay.
And this is actually a variable speed motor, or a energy saving motor. It's they subbed this in because they were out.
Okay.
So you open the tanks about 1 turn each, or a half turn, dial in. Usually about 10 on the acetylene, 20 on the oxygen usually is good. And what I do is I'll come in and kind of crack them a little bit just to get the air out of the lines. Of course, I always like the acetylene first. Kind of like that. Slowly add your oxygen. You got a flame that looks about like that. I'm doing it. I'm only doing these first because I got to slide my foam insulation up.
I gotta put storage.
We're going to apply the heat about 2/3 of the way down the fitting. The metal, the brazing material will have a tendency to want to follow the heat. So you want it to try to follow its way down deep into that fitting, not just around the top rim. Do the bottom part of the fitting. Remember, do my little one, you gotta keep a little distance. These can melt easily.
Explain.
On a heat pump, you've got on an air conditioning system or heat pump, you're going to have a port on each valve, and that port here is connecting you to the side of the valve that's going into the house. That's how we're pressure testing it and putting the vacuum on. A heat pump always gives you an additional port up here. This is a low side port right by the compressor. But here's the thing, this one is inside the system on the other side of the valves where the refrigerant is. So we can't do anything with that one right now. That's for if you were trying to charge the system in heating mode. Because normally these would be under too high of a pressure to charge anything if you had it in heating mode. Okay? So when you first start this up, we're gonna start at AC mode. So now we're gonna put the low side on. High side on.
Keep in mind, the blue one is the low side, red is high.
Yeah, you can tell that by what gauge. Look at the gauge it goes to. You know, one goes to 800, one goes to 500. Now, yeah, I'm gonna bring the vacuum pump over.
The vacuum pump. How far you need it from you?
Yeah, just enough to get that hose on. Plug that in. Take that little cap off.
This one or the little one?
The little one. Yeah, the little ones. If you have these huge hoses for commercial work, that one always goes on and tight.
Does it have to be perfect level, or that's fine?
Close level.
Okay.
So now I've got that valve open, vacuum's on, and now these are closed. But now as soon as I open these up, we are now connecting the inside copper tubing and the indoor coil to the vacuum pump. And we're sucking it from both sides.
We're just sucking whatever the empty air inside the pipes. We're trying to.
We make sure all these are tightly connected. There's one little thing that's not tight.
It smells funny.
That's the oil from the vacuum pump. Here, the sound the vacuum pump's making, the air is coming out up here. The air is taking out. As this gets more and more into vacuum, that sound is going to change to more of it's not going to be that gurgling sound. That means you've gotten the air out. Usually I just hook it up and just let it run for 10 minutes. So 10 minutes or so, you're actually good.
But a lot of professionals tell you have to have a gauge and...
Micron gauge would be more important if you were evacuating the whole unit. If you had to service it inside the compressor casing, what we're evacuating is a very small amount. The line set is only about 35-40 feet long in this case of the indoor coil. We're not doing the outdoor coil and the casing inside the compressor. You can already tell that this is changing sound. This is slowing down coming out of here.
Can you vacuum too much?
No, can't vacuum too much.
You don't run a risk of breaking the brazing that you did?
The vacuum, the difference between the outside air pressure and the vacuum is about 15 pounds of pressure. But it just takes a long time to get a very deep vacuum. You just gotta let it run and run and run and run. Most of the vacuum pump works in the first minute, it's gonna do 95% of it. And then in the next minute, it's gonna do 95% of what was left. So it's fractionating down. So that's why it's already, sound is changing. We're just gonna let that run for a while. And then,
now it's time for a cigarette.
yeah, time for a cigarette. whatever you're
Beer works, but we're in a customer's house, so
yeah.
no beer.
Full vacuum now. It's been about 10 minutes. So what we can do, we're going to shut off our 2 gauges. And then we can go ahead and shut off the vacuum pump. Now we're separated from the vacuum pump. Now that we have a full vacuum, We're gonna, usually the valve covers are just put on hand tight at the factory. We're gonna remove them.
Of course, it fell in the worst place it could.
No, I want to make sure. If you push it, they'll go underneath, and you can take the top off the unit to get it out.
Nice.
That's not fun. That's not the desired method. And we're gonna come in here. We're opening up the valve. We're now letting the Freon that was factory shipped
inside the vacuum pump. How much you open all the way?
Yep, you open them all the way up, and you actually open them hard against the back side, and that's actually kind of forms a seal. And then you got to make sure you use a pair of channel locks to apply the
extra pressure.
Well, to put the cap back on. You know, so you don't want the cap just hand tight. A little bit of.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna take these guys
all the way up.
All the way up, and they're a little hard to get to sometimes, but. And then what I do, I'll come in here and we're going to give it one little turn just to get it until it's tight against the underside of that valve, and just like that.
Because when it's all the way up, it's harder to leak.
It's forming a seal, actually.
You ever see that?
Because valves are a place where valve caps not screwed on or not put on tight after the people install the units is quite often a leak point. There's a little rubber seal inside these valves, and over time it wears, and your valves can leak from underneath the cap. That's why the caps actually have, some of them actually have a little O-ring on them.
Give another shot of that. Alright.
Yeah, that one's right by hand. I might give it a little. There we go. Get the other cap. Put it underneath it here somewhere. There it is. Put our caps on, and we're going to just give them a quarter or half a turn after you got them on finger tight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Off 2 turn by
So
hand.
now we've connected the outdoor unit with the indoor. It's a complete loop now. We've got our thermostat set to air conditioning. And soon we'll hear the contactor pull in, and when the time delay on the electronic thermostat expires, and then we'll apply power. If possible, you want to try to get these things set up in air conditioning mode. It is warm enough today and warm enough inside. We can run this in air conditioning mode. And
what about if it's really cold?
if you're in heating mode, about the only thing you can do is just go with the factory charge. There, our contactor just pulled in. So now, what we're going to do, I'm going to power the disconnect. Let's flip that around.
Now we won't be able to hear nothing.
Yeah, it's actually not too loud. These units aren't too bad here.
Oh, it is pretty quiet. So this is still off.
What's that?
This is
Yeah,
closed.
I've got these off because otherwise your high side would just be shooting into your low side. And it would be, and the Freon would have blown all the oil out of the vacuum pump. You disconnect the vacuum pump. And you got a unit shipped with the factory charge in it. You just got to let it run for 5-10 minutes before you can start judging your refrigerant pressure. Because right now all the Freon is in the compressor casing and in places where it's not normally at during the operating mode. So we just gotta let it go for a while.
Okay, so we'll be back in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Thank you, Brian.
410A to it here.
We're gonna add some 410 to it.
Open that up. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna purge any air out of the hose just by cracking that a little bit. Always charge 410A in liquid form, which means you gotta turn the bottle upside down after you purge your hose. We're gonna let it go in very slowly, because it is a liquid. You see that needle moving, that's indicating you got liquid flowing into the unit.
Then you're just gonna estimate how much you put it
I'm
in.
going to estimate some just to compensate for the length of the line sets. The temperatures outside right now aren't very conducive to accurately charging this. I'll let that set for a minute, let that cycle through.
So you only open the low one.
So it won't go in the high side because this pressure is higher than what the pressure in the tank is.
Gotcha.
So I got that off. So we're just gonna open this up and let any liquid that's in here go into the unit, so we don't waste anything, and we don't want to leave it in the hose. If the next thing we do is use a vacuum pump, we'd have to kind of release all that so we can use the vacuum pump. So that way we have as little refrigerant into these hoses as possible.